What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we are going over Final Standings Friday. If you're new here, you're not sure what it is. It's where we take the deck of the week discussed on Monday, and I kind of talk about how I feel the deck works and some of the flaws with it, and how I feel it sits in the meta. Now, this week we did talk about the Blue Nami deck, and this deck is more fun than it is fully competitive, but I can see it doing well when people aren't really expecting it, or if you're in a area where people aren't really sure how to play against it because they don't see it often enough. The essence of Blue Nami is that you play a bunch of cards that help self-mill, like the Kaya, and then you also have things like the Zeph to bounce characters, but also if they get attacks through, they can mill. And then you have a couple events that can actually help you self-mill. So with this deck, you never really attack except with the characters that have the when attacking effect, and if they deal damage, you mill 7. But overall, the deck is mainly just a pure defensive deck, and most of the defense cards really just kind of mill you and put you at a disadvantage in the sense of you're getting rid of cards that you might want, but at the same time it's doing the alternative win effect when it comes to Nami. But now that I've kind of explained what Nami does as a deck for anyone who's new to watching this and hasn't watched Meta Monday, I'll kind of talk about the pros and cons of the deck. As far as the pros, the deck is a ton of fun, and with being blue, it does have good cards that can actually benefit with the effect that kind of replenish your hand and do things like that. You do have things like Sanji's Pilaf, which can just draw 2 cards, so you're able to see more through your deck, and you don't have to really discard. So while your deck is thinning, rather than them going into the trash, they're going into your hand. And then you also have cards if your hand gets low, like Love Love Mellow, which is a 4K counter, and then it lets you draw a card if you have a certain amount of cards in hand. But as far as the cons for the deck, it really loses to itself sometimes. There's times when, you just might not have the greatest start. You might not have the right triggers that you want in your life, and if you're in a situation where the self-mill isn't going to work, because the deck is so built around it, that's really the only way you can win. And so if you're not able to pull off the milling aspect, you're never really going to deal damage or be able to deal with a board due to the characters that you play and being so heavy in events. So when you can get the mill off and the consistency, it works great. But otherwise, you're kind of in an awkward situation. The other con of the deck is that it really struggles in a meta that's filled with rush and a lot of, aggression. When it comes to red, Zoro comes to mind. With Zoro, you're in a situation where even if you pop their characters, they cost so little to play that they'll usually bounce them back into play. And at the same time, they do have a bunch of characters that have rush or just have insane powers. And Nami isn't really designed well to deal with a consistent 7 to 9k swing. If you do a 7k swing, they have to burn an event. If they don't have Dawn open, they have to burn their 2ks, and their 2ks are usually cards that they want to play. And when you're dealing with the aspects of a 9k swing, you have to burn 2 events or an event and a counter, and so it kind of gets tricky. In the late game, you want to try to be as aggressive as possible, but what I will say is that when the deck does work, it works well, and you'll see that in the gameplay in the background. We are playing against Yellow Katakuri, and we are able to pull off the combos and stuff, so you'll kind of see with the rest of the gameplay how things kind of pan out, and how Nami being able to self-mill has its benefits. So overall, though, the deck is a lot of fun. I think that there's a reason that, the win con is cool and unique, but it's not seeing the most play. And with the ban of the Reliant card that OP03 Nami uses, which I think it's Cabbage or Cabbage, one of the two. I'm pretty sure it's Cabbage, but kind of takes away more of the mill factor. And so it's kind of iffy on, if you can pull it off or not. But overall, I think the deck is a ton of fun. So if you're wanting to play it, definitely try it. And one more con that I forgot to mention is that depending on what you're playing against, your opponent has to change up their play style, which means that, if they are just playing, their list normally how they play any matchup, they're going to lose because, they're going to be expecting to take damage. They're going to be holding on to cards that they might want to play instead. So you can kind of catch them off guard. But if they know it's coming, they kind of can adjust on the fly or in the first couple turns and kind of figure out what they want to do. So it's a good deck if no one expects it, but if everyone's prepared for it, it's probably the bottom of the list. Can sneak wins, but it's very tricky, especially in a red heavy format. So as always, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. If you do enjoy it, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, I will catch you guys on next week's Meta Monday.